Okay, so now we're almost ready to shoot, but we just need to do a couple of things to set the camera up first. First of all, we need to make sure that the camera is set up with the correct ISO. So if you can see here, if we go back to the box, we're working with ISO 100 speed film here. So our ISO dial is on the same dial as the shutter speeds. Okay, so to be able to change the ISO, you first need to lift the outer ring, and then you can twist it clockwise and anti-clockwise, and you can see the numbers correspond to all the different ISO speeds that you can generally get. So we need to set that on ISO 100, so I can clearly see ISO 100 there. So now the camera is set for ISO 100. Okay, just make sure that the outer ring there sits back down nice and neat. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about focus. So with this camera, your focusing is on the front of the lens here. Okay, so you're moving that forwards and backwards, okay, to find the focus. And as we explained in a previous slide, this camera has a split screen. So once you line up the top half and the bottom half of the split screen, that's the point that you have focused on. Okay. Last part then, before we kind of move on and actually take the picture, is we need to make sure that we're metering correctly. Okay, so we've got the right exposure. And to do that, again, you're pointing the camera at the object that you want to take a picture of, and you need to take this film advancing lever here and just move it into this position. Okay, it won't go any further. It's just like that. That activates the light meter inside the camera here, okay, just above the viewfinder. And when you look in, if you've got the exposure, if it's overexposed, you're going to see a red cross, okay, over on the left hand side of the viewfinder. That tells you that the pictures are going to be overexposed, too much light, so very, very bright. And likewise, if you've underexposed, okay, so if you haven't quite got the relationship between shutter speed and aperture correct, and it's underexposed, that means your pictures are going to come out darker. So you're going to look for a minus sign lit up in red, okay? You might need to kind of half press the shutter button for those lights to come on, for those lights to activate, okay? If you are pointing the camera at your subject and you get a green light in the middle, that means that you have the correct exposure, okay? So again, we showed you that in a previous slide, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and imagine that I have pre-focused my camera and I've also got the right set of exposures. So for example, I decided to work with 125th of a second. Okay, so I can move my shutter speeds around here on this dial. So I'm going to work at 125th of a second. And also I found that my exposure balanced on F11. So you can see here just on the ring closest to the camera body, I'm rotating the various apertures. Okay, and you're lining everything up with the green dot here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set it for F8 because that's what worked for me. So all that's left then is for me to take a picture, and to do that I just need to press the shutter button here and then wind on to frame number 2.